Let me drop a message and then I will share my screen. Do you have any doubts regarding the last session which we had?
So, in the last session, I was not there, so I got to ask
Oh, okay, okay.
doubts regarding.
No issue. एक बार रिवाइज कर लेते, right? So let's have a revision. Okay.
Okay.
And फिर अगर कोई आता है then
And
we'll
sir,
start.
one thing I would like to ask, if you consider it right, then please answer that. That were you the part of career camp?
Yes, I was from January 2020 batch.
Okay, so how long did it take for you to complete this whole journey?
If you like talk about the complete course which we had, so like DSA was there for around 4 months. Then
No, no. Ideally, the whole
yeah,
syllabus is of 9 months. Ideally,
yeah. Ideally, it's 9 months. So
in how many months you completed that?
I completed in around 7 months. So
Around 7 months.
yeah.
So
Uh,
after 7 months, you got placed, right?
yeah, so 7 months I was started sitting in placement. So like yeah, it took one more month, but I was allowed to sit in placement after 7 months. So yeah, that was in my hand. So yeah.
So what is the case with me that I am currently? It's, I guess, sixth month running now.
Yes.
So from the ideal timeline, I have 3 more months, right?
Yeah, obviously.
So what if I will? What if in case I do not complete the syllabus within whole 9 months? Then
So like it is better, always better to like be like in the deadline. But even if that is not done, so like please try to do that. Otherwise, if that is not the case, then also you can like continue. So you can continue with the completing the course as soon as possible after 9 months also.
okay, and all the benefits like placement stuffs and all will be given, right?
Yes. So it is total of 18 months stretch, right? Now, this 18 months, you have ample time, even if you if you complete in 9 months, that is very well and good, and that is what should be the goal. But if that is not the case, you like let's say take 11 months, 10 months or 11 months, 2 months extra, then also you have around 7 to 8 months in hand, and that is like as per I think it's more than enough. Like if you're studying for placement, it would be like a month, and like your as the course is, so it won't take you more than a month to get placed. So yeah, that is the
Okay, sir. Okay.
okay.
So basically, what I have to do is just get expertise on all the stuffs which is there in the course, and there's nothing to get worried for the placement, right? If the concept
Yes,
is clear.
yes. Like the thing which happens is you guys, let's say that DSA is there, so we completed DSA, then HTML, CSS, then JavaScript is here. Now when we start JavaScript, so the journey of like the web development starts like really from this point, JavaScript. And next it comes with Node.js and then React. So all these are combined. So most of the assignment which I got from the companies were like demanding both of the Node and React. So and both of them are JavaScript. So first phases JavaScript should be very strong. It should be strong. There is no even if you do delay or like something in Node.js or React, it's totally fine. But if you cannot um, you have to go with like JavaScript. You have to make that part strong. Then only it is like beneficial moving forward.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So all right. Okay, let's get started. So we already did a session on JavaScript last day, and what we discussed were basically the data types we have. Then we discuss about how we write function, and we try to compare the language we already know, that is Java, and the new language JavaScript. So we'll continue with the discussion further, okay? And let's see what other things we have. So I will quickly share my screen and let's get started. All right. So we discussed about JavaScript that it is a scripting language. Okay. We already know about like Java, which is a programming language. Now the difference was there is um, in programming language it's basically the compilation and the uh, after the compilation is done, then we have the runtime. So we give the uh, input and we get the output. So something like this is happening. Now, when case of scripting language, there's nothing like that. We write our code, and the code is executed line by line. Okay. So even if there is a single error in the complete program, programming language will throw a compilation error. But we'll see in a minute that scripting language does not work like that. It is straight away takes the input and processes it. Okay, so that is the point. And next is like we need to have some compiler, different compilers there, different setup has to be done. Whereas we'll see scripting language is able to run in our own browser, whatever browser we are having, maybe it Chrome, like Mozilla or whatever it is. Okay, so let's see that. Next point was first thing of any language will be ki how do we deal with variables. So how do we deal with variables? Now, as per like just a revision, let's see. So we discussed about lat. Sorry, not lat. It's let var and const. Anyone wants to give some context on let const and var who were there in the last session, or if you want, you can just go through it. So, what's the difference between let, var, and const, and what are the rules? Any guesses? All right. I would highly recommend guys to keep revising the things, whatever we study, right? All right. So, just a quick recap. When we say so, let, var, and const, these are the three keywords which are there in JavaScript, which helps us take a variable. For example, I have written let ABC. Now, this ABC is a variable which I can use to store data. Okay. Same with var and same with const. The const, the simple one. So let's discuss const, which is the most simple one. Const says you need to whatever variable you are having over here, you need to assign a value whenever you are initializing it, which is this line. I cannot have anything like something like this. It will throw error because we need to initialize it while we are declaring the variable at that point also. Next rule was for constants कि we cannot reassign it. Okay, so if we try to reassign it, it will be throwing us error. We cannot do this. All right, that is not allowed. So this is the rule of const, which is the most simple one. Okay. Next was let. Okay, so let also helps us storing variable. Okay, now I can store some variable over here, or I cannot store it. Totally depends on me. Okay, that is the point. And I can reassign it. Okay, I can reassign it like line number 19. We can see that I have already reassigned this variable ABC. This works. Okay, this is the point. Let const, and finally the var. So var, you can leave it as it is, otherwise you can initialize it. You can reassign it. Okay, so reassign BAC, whatever we have here, and even we can reinitialize it also. Okay, this is a bit weird. We already have a variable BAC. Now we are again having a variable BAC. This works only with var. Okay, I know like that's totally against the rule of programming languages, whatever you have studied. You cannot have two variables with the same name in a single program, right? That is not allowed as per what we know. If you have a background with C++ or Java. Okay, so this is the point. Now we'll go in depth in coming part. So why I said that const is the relatively the simpler one. It seems that let and where are simple one, but we'll discuss about them later. So this is how we store variables. Any doubts in here, guys? Any doubts related to this?
But sir, if a scope is different, then we can have variables with same name in C++, right?
Yeah, true. So is the scope different here?
No, no, no. I'm just
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally, totally
saying
fine.
that
Yes, yes,
it is possible.
yes, yes, yes. It's possible. It's possible.
So, sir,
All right.
please, can you
Mhm.
elaborate that what is the benefit of having this kind of variable, like where BAC is equal to 56 and where BAC is equal to 67?
Hmm. Uh, okay. Let's cover that in scopes. We'll study scope. Okay. So you mentioned the scope. So we will study scope in like some time. Okay. And we'll discuss about this. Okay? That is related to scope. What you just said. Okay. So we'll discuss in that. All
No,
right.
just as
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. So, let's say if we want to
Mm-hmm.
use the variable BAC, then which
Mm-hmm.
value will be used at that instant? If let's say we invoke the variable BAC at line number 25
Mm-hmm.
after the second declaration.
All right. So let's try this. I will try to print it before it is after this one,
Okay.
and I will try to print this after it is being initialized. Okay, let's see this. So it is at line number 23 and line number 29. So what I will do is let's try to print this. All right.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So this is what it is happening. So whatever be the current value that is being printed. Now, with that being said, so we'll discuss about how this is possible and why do we have three of them instead. Like let's say constants separate, but why let and where? Why we have two of them? Okay, and what's the difference basically? So we'll discuss it. One point here to notice is what's the difference with other languages? Do you see any difference? We do not have any data type over here, right? We do not
Yes,
have
sir.
to specify data type. Okay. All right. Moving forward, so there is something I like. I discussed it in the previous class, so please go through it. I have already attached the link in the sheet, so you can just go through it. It is type conversion. It is very very important. Okay, so please go through it. It's simple but important. Yeah, it's nothing like we need to. Those are rules, so we cannot like do much about changing them. But yeah, we should remember the rules. Okay, that's the point. Arithmetic mostly the same. Okay, as we have mathematical operators and something, so we all have everything same as that. Although there's a difference when we want to have power. So we like exponentiate something like this. We do not do something like this in like as we have in other languages. So we can just have exponential. Otherwise, the multiplication division remains the same. All right. Coming to functions. So functions we started last day, right at the end. So this was our last thing which we discussed. So let's continue with the discussion around functions. All right. Now, this is a function, naming it function one, and basically have some code inside it. There's a function two with parameters. Okay, so we do not have any parameters over here, but we have some parameters over here. All right. Sorry, it's not parameter. What is it? What do we call it?
Argument.
Correct. We call it arguments. So, what is the difference between parameter and argument? All right. Let's discuss about that. Okay. Whenever you write something over here, we call it argument. But when you call the function, we call it parameter. Is it clear, guys? This 2 and 3 are parameter, whereas A and B are arguments. Make sense?
And also, sir, formal argument and actual argument. So basically, you want to say that actual argument means parameter, and whatever argument you are saying is formal argument.
Yes, you can say that also. Yes, yes, basically.
Thanks.
Okay, moving forward. So now this is how a function looks like in JavaScript. Okay, so if you just notice, what are the differences with other languages we have studied? Can you guys tell what are the differences? The first difference is there is no return type, right? There is no data type for the parameters also. So there is no return type for the function. There is no return type for the parameters. Okay, and calling is also different. Okay, so calling is also different. For example, function two and three is called like this. All right. Okay, let's not call it here. Let's call it on the page itself. Okay? I wanted to show you guys something. So here it is. I have opened the page. I can see that I can visualize these functions. I have my functions in my console. How is this happening? How can I directly access the function within the page? And even something like this is also true, which we'll study later. Okay, but I want you guys to see something. Okay, coming back to the point. So calling function two. So function two just prints the way like whatever values we pass for a and b. Okay, so we can see that there's just printing two and three. Okay, tell me what will happen if I just do this? Will it throw error or what? I'm passing a single argument, not two of them, because two is required, but passing one. So what should happen? It will not throw error. It will run totally fine. B will come as undefined. Okay? The second parameter which was needed will come as undefined. All right. Try this. Two, three, four. So one extra argument passed. What should be now? Will it run out through error? It will run perfectly fine. Okay? So these are the three things. If you are passing the balanced argument, it is good. Less arguments, undefined. More arguments, no issues. All right. There is one thing for these cases. Now, JavaScript provides one more functionality that we call it a default value for the arguments. Default value for the arguments. How does this work? So let's create a function 3. All right. Okay. There's a variable c, and I wanted to do the same thing over here also. To deal with the values. Okay. Totally point over here is I can provide a default value for this c. Okay. I can provide a default value for c. Currently, if I don't pass, what I'm getting if I don't pass b, uh, guys, we just saw what we got for b, right? If you don't pass any value, what we get undefined, right? We just saw that, right? Over here. All right. Now, this point is true with these values also. When you say let and you do not pass any value, so that stores undefined. Okay, so this by default any variable which does not have a value is going to have an undefined inside it. All right, so that is why it is printing. Now, I wanted to have this as a default value. Okay, now let's see. So I'll just quickly restart it and let's see function 3 is loaded here or not. So yes, function 3 is already loaded, and let's try it out. So not function 3, it's function 3, right? So function 3, the whole point is 2, 5, and 6, and this is what we have. Okay. Now tell me what will happen. Alright, sorry. So yeah, obviously, so this is the default value, but it does not mean that we cannot supply something. Okay, so we can supply, and here no restriction of data type. Okay, even if the default value is a number, what if I pass true here? Will it work or throw error? What do you guys think?
Should work.
All right. Yes, obviously. So it is not going to show any error. It is going to replace whatever the default value is. Now, this default value, we also call it optional argument. We call it optional argument. We can pass it or we cannot pass it. Okay. So these type of parameters are used when we want to have a fallback. Fallback means, let's say that we're expecting input from user, but user does not provide any input, so that is a default value I want to keep. So this is what we have. All right. Finally, one last thing. Last thing is, now I can have like I discussed about the data types we have in Java. Sorry, JavaScript. So what are the data types, guys? Anyone remember what are the data types we discussed? All right. So the data type we discussed were, first was number, then we discussed about boolean, then was string, null, and undefined. These were primitive data types. ठीक है, null and undefined was new introduction over here. ठीक है, and also there is a non-primitive data type which we call as object, which was also there. Now finally we have this function. ठीक है, so I will say that let function 5, I want to create a function, let function 5. So you'll say, sir, why let? See this. I can totally write this function over here. Okay, I can write the function over here, which is totally fine. Like storing the function inside a value. Okay, storing the function inside the value. Okay, and I can have a, we call this as function expression. Okay, we call this as function expression. Okay, all right. Now, how does this work? Let's try it out. Okay, so let's try it out. So, function 5, I already have. This is a variable which is having this function. Okay, I can call it as I call normal functions. Okay, so this function can be called as we call as the normal function. Okay, now this function expression, what we had inside a variable. Okay, so I've written a function and I stored it into a variable. Now I can call this function 5 over here, and this works. There may be one question. So this function name is function 6. Okay, let's try it out. Can I call function 6? Let's try it out. Nope, I cannot call function 6. Okay, although this function 6 is stored inside function 5, I cannot call this function 6 over here because this is an internal name for the function. Now I only have access to this value. I cannot directly access this. I can access through function 5. Remember, we cannot directly access the values of any variable. We have to go through the variable itself, right? How do you know like what at what place it is stored? You cannot directly access anything, right? You have to go through variables. Coming back to the point, so why does function 6 exist then? Why it is there? So this function 6 can be used inside the function. Okay, you can use function 6 inside the function. For example, a recursive function. Okay, so you can use as a recursive function. So this function 6 can be used inside the function. Otherwise, function 5 is also available, not an issue. So this name is can be used inside it. We call this type of function as function expression. Okay, function expression. This is a named function expression. Named means it has its own name. Although it can be used inside, but it has its name. We have something like this. We call it, let's say this as function 8. Okay. This is function 8. All right, we do not need to have this. What I wanted to tell. Okay, we call it anonymous function expression. Okay, anonymous. It does not have any name. This function is already stored inside this variable. So anonymous function expression. Anonymous. So there are is a normal function, what we just saw, and apart from that, we have two other different variation of functions. Okay, we call it named function expression and anonymous function expression. Works the same way, not no any difference. We do not have any difference over here. Okay. Works the same way. All right. Pardon the spelling. Right. Coming back to the point. Now, uh, this is what I wanted to talk about functions. There's one thing I want to discuss with you guys. Okay, let me have some variable also. Like, or what I can do is I can take. Okay, there's a concept we call it hoisting. Anyone knows about hoisting? Hoisting in JavaScript. What do we mean by hoisting? And yeah, like I am writing a script so that I can have a HTML also, and I can write the script also. Okay, so can I talk all JavaScript code inside it, right? Or I can connect to external file that can also be done. So yeah, but like let's continue with this one. Okay. My point is, all right, I do not want to paste a console. Instead, I need some functions over here. So let's print this function. Where is it? I have a normal function. Let's get a function expression. Okay, one is enough. Function expression. Finally, some variables. All right, so that's done. Now we can discuss hoisting. Let me format it. That is done. All right. Um, there's a concept called hoisting. Okay. Now, tell me, what if I want to, what if I want to use this variable before I have declared? Like this is the var variable, right? This is var. Let me write it. Var. Right? I need to give it a comma. So console log dot s same like system dot println. Right. We have the same thing. Now tell me, BAC will run or throw error. All right. Let's see. Let's verify this. All right. It says that where undefined. Okay. Where undefined. Now my point is, don't you think this should have thrown error instead of printing undefined. All right. Let's see for let and const. All right. So this is let and this is const. All right. Let's see. It says that cannot access ABC before initialization. Okay. ABCs cannot be accessed before initialization, initialization, but DAC we can access. It means that there's something going with like BAC, which is different, which is where, and that is not the case with let. Okay, and definitely that not would be the case with const also. Okay, let's see. It says that BCA before initialization cannot be done. Okay, both are giving a reference error. Okay, reference error is there. All right, reference error is there. Okay, we'll talk about latest in some day, but okay, we'll talk about different type of error we have. Okay, but this is giving a reference error. Okay, now my point is there is something called as hosting which happens with where. What do we mean by hosting? Whenever we write a where, okay, there is hosting happening with where. Whenever we write a where, okay, whenever we write a where, basically the declaration, okay, not so there are two things going on, declaration and definition. So whenever we assign something, okay, whenever we have given it that this is the value, so we have initialized it. So the initialization is there and there is a declaration part. Okay, declaration means just writing where ABC, something like this. If I write where uh, a b e or something like, so this is just the declaration part, right? We do not have already initialized it. The point is this where get hoisted at the top means this where gets over here, not this complete one, just this where BAC gets over here. And when we try to access it, it is giving us undefined because only the declaration moves up the file. Okay? Only the declaration is moving up the file. That is why instead of giving error, where is giving undefined, although it would shown an error. But the question is why let and const are not doing the same thing? Because of the implementation, right? The where is older one, let and const are the newer edition. Okay? These are the feature of these are ES6 features. Okay? These are the newer edition. They follow the rule. Okay? They get hoisted, but they maintain a context which will see. Okay? But the point is they will throw error and where gets hoisted at the top. This is first rule which we see in hoisting. There is one more rule. Can I call function one over here? Let's try. So I'm calling function one before it is defined at line number 25, and function one call is at line number 19. Let's try it out. All right, why it is giving ABC? Oh, obviously we need to comment this out, right? Now, one thing, guys, see this. I said that there is no complete compilation of our file and it runs line by line. See, line number 15 is running, whereas line number 16 is not running. Okay? It means that there is a line by line execution. If it would be Java, okay, if it would be Java, the complete program would not run. Even if you miss a semicolon at the last stage, it will not run. But here it is running because till the line before we get error, it is running till that line. So because there is no compilation happening, direct runtime with given inputs. Is this point clear, guys? Direct like no compilation in between.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Moving to the next point. The point was, can function one run? Let's try. So I will comment this part so it does not throw an error. Right. Let's. So it says that it's a function line number n 26. It means that yes, it is possible. So function is also being hoisted. Okay, function की भी hosting हो रही है. But there is one thing. Why is function one not giving undefined? It is running completely, whereas var BAC is giving undefined instead of throwing 56. There's something different in function hosting, and there is something different in variable hosting. So yes, very correct. There is these are two separate things. Functions hosting take complete function at the top, where hosting just take the definition. Sorry, just the declaration. That is it. This is the rule for hosting. In fact, everything is hosted in JavaScript, but not everything can be accessed. Okay, reference error is coming not due to uh, variable not found. If the variable was not there, it should have thrown variable not found. Why is it throwing a reference error? It means that let and const is also being hosted, but it is not allowing us to access the reference or the address, whatever that variable is. It is not allowing us to access. It is not that variable is not there. Okay, but the same thing is not true for, let's try this function function 5. Let's try function 5. Okay, all right. So it says that function 5 cannot access function 5 before initialization, and this program already knows that function 5 exists somewhere in our file. Okay, it is knowing that it is there, and we are calling it before. Okay, that is also known. So remember, only where is hosted. Okay, hosting happens with everything, but only where will give you value, will not throw error, and function will work. Normal function will work totally fine. Normal function, not the function expression or name function expression or no, anonymous function expression. Remember this part. The point over here is how does JavaScript know if it is going line by line? Okay, if it is going line by line, how does it know that there is a where at line number 24? If it is going line by line, if it has to do hoisting, it should know about the complete file. Na? Then only it should run the console. How is this knowing? If I'm saying two statement, I'm saying that it goes line by line. Okay, and I'm also saying that hosting is happening. So how it can happen that it is going line by line also and hosting is also happening? Are you guys getting the point here?
Yes, sir. Both the things are contradicting to each other. So
Yes, yes, very correct. So how does it know function one is here or BAC is here to give hosting to do hosting? What happens is parsing happens twice. Okay, दो बार parsing होती है. It is not seeing the file once. The first run for JavaScript went for like is like going through line by line for the hosting. Okay, that is the first parsing. In the second parsing, our code runs. Okay, so it runs the file for it. Sorry, it scans the file for two times. Okay, first time hosting and second time it runs the functions and all. Is it clear?
yes, sir.
All right. Function overloading. I have attached a link. Like you can just go through it. Okay, we'll discuss it later. Okay, well, when we are doing a scoping, so we'll discuss. All right, one more thing with this hosting thing. Hosting happens in this inside the. Okay, let me just take the name. So it is. So there are several scopes over here. Okay, we'll talk about some scopes like there is something called as global scope. Okay, global scope is outside any function, outside any class. Now, if you remember in C++ or C, we do not have to have a class to run the function. We can directly write int main inside our C++ file and it will run. Now when we came to Java, we needed firstly we needed a class, then we needed a function, and then only we can write our code. Even if we are going to print system println, then also we need a class, then and we need a main function and we need a print statement. In C++, a function is needed, then a print statement. But when it comes to JavaScript, nor I am having a class over here, nor I am having a function over here. I am writing my console outside of any of this. It is neither inside a function nor inside a class. It means that I can write in global scope also. I can write my variables, I can have my variables, console statement, if statement, for loops, everything outside a function or a class, that is totally allowed. Okay? That is the first point. So we call it a global scope. We call it global scope. We already have this scope. That is not something new. But yeah, we can write this. Next scope is function scope. How does this function scope work? So whatever variable I am having inside my function is visible only inside the function. It means that I can have all this inside over here, and that is totally fine. Okay? So that is totally fine. All right. Although I need to comment this part because it is throwing a lot of error. Okay? So I can have all the variable inside it. So this is a different scope I have. Okay? And since I can have since this function have a different scope, it has its own hoisting. Okay? it can it has its own hoisting. Own hoisting means if I have a var over here now, this var will be hoisted inside the function top only. It will not come out and hoist in the global scope. It will hoist just in the function. Is it clear, guys? Guys, is the function hosting clear? Is function hosting inside function clear? There's a global hosting,
Yes.
okay, and there is a function hosting. So function hosting is there, but we have hosting inside function also. So this var will come at the top. Okay. All right. What we have next? So these are two scopes. There's one more scope. We'll see. We call it a lexical scope. We'll see this also. Coming to the point. The point is functions and scopes. We already talked about functions. Let's move to scope. Since we have discussed these two scope, global scope, function scope. All right. Next point is whenever there is okay. So we already know about something called as execution stack. What is the execution stack? All right. Whenever a function is in a running or pending state, okay, there are three states of the function. Either it is dead state, or it is running state, or it is pending state. Dead state means the function is not called at all. It is in the code, but that is not active. Okay. Running means you are like the function is currently running, code is running, like whatever console is there or whatever evaluation is there, it is going. Third is pending state. Can you guys give an example of pending state when a function is in pending state? Can I say recursion?
Yes.
Okay. So in case of recursion, we see that we make a recursive call before the current function is complete. Now, so this is done in something called as execution stack, which is internal to the system. Now, this language makes this execution stack. It stacks the function on the top of one another. Okay, till they are completed. And my whole point is, if you remember, we have Like I had lots of errors, but one of the error was Stack Overflow error. Do you guys remember this, or you have caught this error anytime? Stack Overflow error in case of recursion. All right. Okay. Search for Stack Overflow error. A Stack Overflow error comes when we have exceeded the number of recursive calls, okay, which is allowed 10 to the power 3 calls allowed around in case of Java compilers, okay. Whatever we have been coding this, I'm not sure for the R system, we can override it, but yeah. The point is, all function in running and pending state are loaded into the execution stack. Now, whenever this function is there, there are three things which exist. There are three things which exist when the function is alive, when it is an execution stack. First is it's a variable and environment. Variables and environment. Variable means these variables are accessible. Obviously, it is accessible. That is true for any other language also. There's nothing new in this part. So we can access the variable. We can access the environment. Yes, we can access the environment. For example, I can have where uh, CAB and I can have 90 and I can access this also, right? So I can access comma CAB, that works totally fine. Yeah, so this is I can access, right? So a variable and environment, so whatever the environment is over here, it has access to it. First thing. Second, we have something called as this in JavaScript functions. This in JavaScript function. How many of you remember this? What is what is this? Like this capital this. How many of you remember about this? Like from Java or C++. No one remember this.
Sir, about this keyword.
Yes, yes. Yeah, the same thing.
So, sir, small t is there, no? So you
Uh,
have written and you are saying that capital this. Basically, this is an internal pointer.
okay.
Yeah, in Java
Internal pointer to.
to the object which has the reference of that object. Whosoever is calling that member function.
Yes, yes, correct, correct, very correct. Yeah. So this is pointing to the object whichever is being, like, let's say we want to call the method. So whatever object we have created. So this belongs to the class, and class can use this to call any data member or member function inside it. Okay, and it points to the current object. All right. Now function have the same this. Okay. Here in JavaScript, function have the same this. How can this be possible? So class have this, and here function have this. Yes, it is possible. We'll see how it is possible in coming part. But yeah, this is there. Okay. Now third is a reference to outer execution context. Reference to outer execution context. Okay. Reference to outer execution context. Now we'll see the thing that, okay, there's one more thing I wanted to discuss about functions. Okay, there's one more thing we want to discuss about function. Functions are capable of having nested function inside them. Someone wants to say something. All right. Actually want to say something. Hello. Okay, so one more thing is a function can have a nested function inside it. I know what you're thinking, like how this is possible, but yes, this is possible in JavaScript. We can have a nested function, like function inside a function. Okay, and I can show you how it is running. Okay, so nested, all right, and you can call this also. Okay, you can call this function. All right, so this function is there. Okay, and I have the nested function over here. So I can have a function and a nested function inside it, and I can call it also. All right. So, all right, let's write the logic in that same function. So I'll go to hoisting. I can write it over here. This is function one. Let's see. So you can see that nested is also being called. Okay. So this is what it is. Now, what this statement says that there's a third statement in whenever this function is called. So there are three things. Execution context has variable and environment. This keyword in a reference to. Uh, Actually, want to say something? Hello. All right. So, okay. Now my point is, I can have nested function over here. Okay. Whenever we say execution context, I just explained that key. It is only possible. This execution context is made when the function is in running or pending state inside the stack. Okay. So these three are there. So it is saying that a reference to outer execution context. Outer execution context means execution context has one more execution context. How can this be possible? And I'm saying that a function is running, then only it is in it it has a execution context. So this is possible because of this nested structure function inside a function. This function is running, it means that this function is running. How can it be possible if this function is running and this function will not is not running? This is nested, right? In order to run this function, you have to run this function, right? That is what we are doing at line number 19. It means that there is an execution context inside a execution context. Okay, so this has access to function one execution context. We'll clear about this one. I know it's a bit depth thing, but yeah, we'll clear about this one. What do we mean by this? Last thing for today, we have already done with the function expression. Okay, last thing for today, and we'll start with arrays next day. Last thing is global scope is there, function scope is there. Finally, we have something called as lexical scope. Let's talk about this. All right, let's talk about this now. All right. Remember this for loop. Okay, let's use for. Remember this for loop. Whatever variable like have inside this. Okay, let me like have some array over here. Okay. Okay. My point is. Okay. We do not need any array for this one. What are the example? Let's take a simple example, simpler than for. Okay. Let's take if. Okay. My point is, if I write a variable over here, okay, let's say, okay, is equals to 45, something, okay. There's a lexical variable over here. My point is, can I access this variable inside it? I can access this, right? Guys, tell me, is line number 52 will be working or not? It will work, right? Why it will not work? It will definitely work, right? You have a variable, you're just printing it, so it will work, no issues. My point is, will this work or not? That's the question. Question mark. All right, this is line number 52. Let's try to run this function. That's not a function, that's just an expression which we have if true. So, yes, line number 52 is running, but it says lexvar is not defined, lexical variable is not defined, so this is not working. All right, so this is also maintaining a scope, that's why it's not visible outside. That is the case, right? It means that if block is also maintaining a scope, but my point is neither this if block is a global scope, neither it is a function, no chance of function scope. What kind of a scope it is? Call it lexical scope. All right, so this was the third scope I wanted to talk about. With this, we are done with function and scoping. Next day, we'll start with array in JavaScript and we'll see. Any doubts till now, guys?
No, sir, no, sir.
All right, let's get the attendance. So you would say this is group C, right?
Yes, sir. Group C.
All right. Achal is here, right?
Yeah.
Aman is here. Dilip is also here, right? Toga joined, but he left. Jamil, not sure. Jamil is here. Okay, so okay, let me quickly do it. So if you miss someone, just please tell. So Nikhil is here. Jaswant was here, but he left. Rajat is here, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we have five of you here, and rest I will mark as absent. He joined. He was for quite a bit, right? Okay. So guys, we had like lots of missing classes. I don't know like what's the reason. Um, so maybe the timing is not good or something. So maybe whatever the feedback, please give it so we can do something about it. All right. Okay. Let's
Yes,
meet.
sir.
Yeah. You want to say
Yes,
something?
yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Okay. All fine. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. Let's meet in the next session. Bye.
Yes, sir. See you soon. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Good day, sir.
Have a good day, guys. Bye.